call the meeting to order. It's 6:35. I'll keep an eye on the list here to see who else might show up. But myself, Mark Betancourt, Chairman, Christine Tastasio, Cindy Beauregard, Joe DeLucia, Mark Kulos, Bill Hull. Those are all, Mark Kulos, so those are all on Zoom. And I got Stacy Gould, Greg Blasi, and again, myself are here on site. So that would indicate we do have a quorum. I got to think about who else we're missing right now.
Did you say Peter?
Did
you say Peter Gaultier?
No, he's not here yet. Not here yet. And he knows, he sent me a note. Oh, there's Bob Serpensky. So I do have several other people here that are here either as guest or ex officio. At the behest of the committee, we have Tara Booker with us here in person, and I think Cheryl's iPhone, if it's a guess, that's our rec director. I'm going to guess. But
yeah.
Okay, thank you for chiming in. So we've got Jim Barrett. Excuse me, I forgot your name. Greg, oh, you're Greg. Okay, Greg Small, yeah. And then we from DRA. Wait a minute, hang on. Eileen Eagle. There you go. Arcadis is here. We also have some of our school staff. Matthew Brown, Bob Serpensky. Hi, Bob. So they are also here on Zoom, I should say.
Yeah,
I still, at this point, Stacy, I don't know if this is something you can, Mark Adams?
Sure.
He has not returned my call or text or anything.
Does the phone number?
It's the number Bonnie gave me.
All right, so.
So I have
just
no,
make sure that the number's correct, because we could be, one digit off and you're sending a text to.
it's the number Bonnie gave me. I double checked that.
Okay.
It's not.
Somebody's got,
Give it.
who's giving me feedback.
Am
So if you could, see if you can get me Mark's information.
That's not coming up.
No, it's going to.
Joe DeLucia?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting, who's the, Jim, I think that's from us.
I know, Mark, I'm getting feedback now.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Joe, did you want to say something?
Hey, Greg.
Well, so I have a question. So are we to understand that there's going to be a presentation projected onto that screen in front of
Yeah,
you?
we're gonna, he's gonna take over the presentation and put it on Zoom and just share off his laptop.
I have my microphone shut off. Yes, sir.
You can't shut it off?
I have it shut off.
Your speaker, is that turned off?
It is. Yeah.
I keep losing the screen too. It keeps going to the icon for a person. And then
Yeah,
I hit on it and then I get the screen back.
that's your settings.
Well, it figures.
So whoever's speaking usually is supposed to come up, and that's all. All right, I think we're doing better here, I think.
Can we jump?
Yeah, I think a little better. All right. So we have the minutes for Tuesday, January 25th.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Motion by Stacy Gould to accept the minutes. Was there Greg Galassi for the second? I will note, I should have done this at the beginning, that the meeting is being recorded. Yeah, I think that's the number I got, but I'll have to double check. Do you have an email form or anything? If not, whatever. that's fine. Yeah, well, you know, that goes, so I'll check it out afterwards. So we have a motion, a second, any discussion on the minute? Hearing none, a motion would be in order. I mean, see, I'll call for a vote. Myself is a yes. Christine DeStazio,
Yes,
we'll do the Zoom people first. Mark Poulos. For the minutes. Mark? Well, Cindy Beauregard,
Yes.
Bill Hull,
Abstain.
abstain, okay?
I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, well, doesn't matter. Joe DeLucia,
Yes, and Bill does not have to abstain. He has the option to, but he does not have
Correct.
to.
yeah. Stacy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
all right, and I think that covers everyone. Minutes are passed, so. Is there any public comment? I didn't see any public, so nor do I think I have any. So we'll go right to update by Jim. You've got the screen.
You see it there?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Again, I apologize for the echo. I don't know what I have going on here.
And
I'm gonna mute myself here.
And just remind everybody who's on to mute.
Yeah, and, good point. And if everyone else could mute too, please, that might help. Yeah, I can. Good.
Okay, so what we have to share with you this evening, the 14 buildings that are part of our study, we wanted to focus on those that are educational school related. There are 11 of those, and that's really the lion's share of the review of our projects. So that is our focus this evening. In terms of agenda, we wanted to touch on project schedule as it was touched on at our last meeting, with clarification that the month of June is available. And the other comment was relative to Parks and Rec and Police Department being able to receive contacts for the two departments so that we can begin reaching out to them as we think about the process here. In terms of another item within this, enrollment projections and demographics is a study that's part of our effort. And what I want to share with you within our overall timeframe is an update relative to that. Item 2 within the agenda, the facilities review update. It's really taking a look at our reviews of all the buildings, the 11 of the schools that I spoke to, but then to give you some just overview of kind of 2 or 3 of them to get a sense of what our report ultimately will yield and what it will look like. So focusing on the first topic center, project schedule, we have this work plan that we have shared with you a number of times now. I've updated it as of yesterday and wanted to be able to share it with you. The development of the demographics resides in this zone. And this was the original schedule for that work. What transpired was in the month of October and early November, our consultant SLR came to us and let us know that they were no longer offering that service as they lost a key member of their team who had basically the lion's share of their experience. Learning that in November, we used the remainder of the month to reach out to a number of potential other people to be able to give us that service. In December, we were able to identify the enrollments projection team. And in January, there was negotiation between that team and the district to be able to understand how the information shared by the district would be utilized. As of the outset of February, they have been able to get underway. Their target is to be able to deliver by mid-March. I don't know, Greg, do you have any other update around?
Yeah, part of that, that push out into March, we had originally anticipated them done by end of February, is the city does not have student location mapping. And apparently it has never had it. So they are going to create a district-wide, citywide student mapping. And what that does, and that was the negotiation between our consultant and the district's legal team, was everyone's afraid when you say student mapping that it's going to have names and be identifiable. It simply goes by, there's a student who lives at this house and they're in this grade. So they got the agreement with the legal team, they're set to go. So it'll be a benefit that the city will get from the study now is this mapping of where all the students are. And from that, we can then do attendance areas for each one of the schools and find out where the students live who go to each school. And then from there, start to look at, is there a way to balance it? Or if you were to look at a different school arrangement or different school number, what would that do for attendance and time on a school bus and that type of stuff? So it's a worthwhile 2-week sidetrack to get that amount of data available on a map and be able to put it to use, not only for this study, but for the city going forward. So it's not going to impact us schedule-wise at all in terms of getting the project done. It's just going to come. Usually we take that, we put it in, put it off to one side, everybody digests it, and it sits there until we're done with the report. And so we'll get it a little bit later than we would originally have planned to, but we'll get more information than the city was able to provide.
And I guess that's something that I'd like to emphasize is each of these adjustments that we're identifying will not affect the proposed end date. We feel that we're able to align it such that we'll be able to deliver as we suggested we would when we initially took it. We do have to deal with these issues as they come to the table. Unusual circumstance, but certainly through COVID, we've come to learn there's a lot of unusual circumstances that present themselves. Another area where adjustment was in educational planning and facilities programming. And within this, initial was that we would look to do educational programming through November and into December, facilities programming as we looked into the early portion of the new year as proposed in our last iteration. We are proposing to seek to have the educational programming get underway, hopefully as we get into the later part of this month, and it will carry into the early part of March. Similarly, we'll stack that with the facilities programming. Some of the information that we're going to share this evening, it's facilities related. Some might view it as, well, you're speaking to program. It's our take on the individual buildings, and the important layer that we have to get to is a conversation with the district to be able to get an understanding of their anticipated utilization of space, their anticipated educational programming. So that's where we are with that. And then in terms of the report development, we saw it initially falling into March and into April. At this juncture, because this information that precedes it will be important to these outcomes, we're placing it out towards the beginning of May and using the month of May to do that development. Lastly, in terms of the report itself, in terms of delivering it to the town, we are using the month of June for that stacking. So it's presentation to this committee, acceptance by this committee, presentation to the Board of Ed, and ultimately from there to the city as needed for review during that time frame. So quick snapshot on where we are. The vertical line tells us where we are here within this. And we see the work ahead of us. There's significant scopes of work, but it's work that we knew we had ahead of us. And we feel we have it within this schedule captured in a way where we can allow these various activities to continue to run on parallel track. Some of them influence the next, others like the demographics. They can run pretty much on an individual track, and it will ultimately feed into our questioning of size of buildings, total efficiency of building, et cetera, based on how many students are anticipated for each. I guess with that, I'll pause here and ask any questions relative to overall schedule.
No, I mean, to me, obviously, our biggest concern right now is getting, having enough time to digest and come up, with a recommendation for the system and to go to referendum, something that we can go to referendum.
Yep.
That's, and I think, the city council is saying at the end of they want to report by the end of June. There's some wiggle room there, but but we still have to. Committee, I think, has to have some time to digest it.
Right.
Kind of be up to them.
And to that end, some of what we'll share next, which is the initial steps of this, which is our collection that happened through the course of last summer and then into the fall with our MEPs. That information is now written. It's been shared in PDF form so that I assume that many of the committee members have had opportunity at least to know it's there. That's the next piece that we'd like to speak a little bit with you about. And that has to do with an update relative to these facilities reviews. Again, the 14 buildings that are within the overall study, what we want to focus on this evening are the school facilities. And those are 11 of the school facilities. And this evening, we want to speak specifically through the lens of facility assessment, conditions assessment. So this is without benefit of having had that conversation with the district to be able to understand utilization. That's the next layer to this. But this is information that we feel this committee, with the information in the PDFs that has been shared, should be stuff that you become facile with in terms of just a deep understanding of what's on the ground here. Many of you, because of past study experience, kind of have a sense of what's here. But I think that collectively, we should shape that vision so that the community at large can understand where we stand relative to physical condition. So what I have up on the left-hand side, it's a range, and it goes in terms of suitability, physical, and again, purely physical condition, not considering how well does the program fit within it, but just we're looking at them as raw buildings to carry forward and think about. In terms of suitability, some are more suitable. We have a large group that we identify as suitable, and when we say suitable, that is suitable with investment, meaning many of these buildings within this range need a fair amount of investment to be able to move forward in a successful way. And then we have a few that we want to identify as less suitable in this range.
So it's important that this is our take, and I had posted the draft of the conditions report in two parts. The first you got was from CES, the second you got was ours. Those will be melded together and accompanied with photos and whatnot. But the more suitable, we put 3 buildings up above that line. Kelly is fairly obvious. It's your newest building and was done quite well. Case is interesting. We were asked, it was listed as an early childhood building, which it is not appropriate for at all. And we know it's not that anymore. But, so we reviewed it in terms of a public school building. And if we look at it as a 18 to 22-year-old transition program, which is what we understand is in there now, it's a far more suitable building for that. So on the review, you're going to see comments about the playground needs work, and none of the fixtures are at the right height, and none of the hardware is at the right height, because we looked at it as an early childhood building. So there'll be a caveat on that particular chapter saying, if you take this and use it the way you are using it now, it's a great building. It is what you want for that type of program. Teachers is ekes its way into there. It's in pretty good physical shape. It has a number of inherent problems with it code-wise that date back to when it was built. And those are areas that are going to be a combination of investment and waivers from the state. And most of that is because of the stairs. So the elevator is not compliant and the stairs within the building are not compliant. Getting those stairs compliant would be a major investment, and it's one that we would probably suggest you work with the state to see for a waiver. And it's mostly to do with the width. It's not so much the rise or the run or anything like that. They're just narrower than what code calls for nowadays. The concern that I would have from a facilities point of view is the argument can be made that the stairs are at the corners of the buildings. So just build a bigger stair tower and replace the stairs. And that's a tough one to argue against because it is possible, but it's a money solution. So we kept it up on that level. I think the building has good bones. I think it needs some investment in it. And overall, I think it's pretty good. The suitable ones run quite a range because they were built more or less in pairs and have adapted as they've come along. They make it into this category because they are in a condition and of a sort that they can be made code compliant without a extraordinary step of taking something apart and refixing it. And they would serve the purpose for the most part of where they need to go with investment either in mechanical systems, lighting, ventilation, handicapped accessibility, those little pieces that sound like nickel and dime, but end up being real money when you're done with it all. And then the two at the bottom, Laconic is, it's a building that's hard not to love. It's got a great layout inside. It's got great classroom space. It is also completely unaccessible. Doesn't have a staircase that you can get up, doesn't have a ramp, doesn't have an elevator, doesn't have anything. I can't even see how you could get programmatic accessibility in that building. It's got a playground that's, if you make it to the playground, you could climb Mount Everest. And that's your 2 through 5-year-old playground, which is really cute. And it doesn't have an accessible path and it doesn't have a stairway that a kid could go up. So that building, as much as I like it and want to find a way to solve it, getting it all compliant and get it working is probably the same cost as replacing it. So we'll spend some time on that one. And then Stanton is, it's got a nice site, and that's about where I'll go on that one. It's in a good location of the building. It was built in what we see as the quintessential baby boom building. Get it built, get it up there and get it done. And the investment in it in the intervening years has been in the things for creature comfort, like the boilers were just replaced. We were told the roof was done a couple years back. I don't think it was done right. Or I don't think it was done to the way it was supposed to have been.
Yeah, we spend a lot of money on that roof.
Yeah, it's showing leakage inside the building again already. And it looks like, we'll show you, I don't think I have pictures. Do you have pictures up there?
Well, we,
Yeah, let's,
Tear it down and build new, is that what?
yeah, that's,
That's like saying she's got a nice.
I'll say that so it can be recorded.
that's
It
kind
might
of,
be a better option to tear it down and build new.
that's kind of architect talk where it has a nice personality.
Yeah.
Got a nice site. So why don't we go through, we put 3 in here that we'll show you more, a closer image of what the final report for this stuff will look
so
like.
Greg just spoke of Stanton, so we'll use that as our starting point, okay? And in it, as Greg said, it has a nice site. And this is evidence of that site.
Yeah,
And-
it probably has, it's got more land than it needs, and I'm pretty sure that that's a water course halfway back.
Mhm.
So crossing that's not out of the picture. It just puts the building really far back from the site. So it's the kind of site that you would look at and study, and we will study it a little bit further to see, could you build on the site without taking the school down at first? So you're not looking at temporary housing for kids. The bottom right is the floor plan, and as we say in the nomenclature, it's a cells and bells type of thing. It's a double loaded corridor. Classrooms are all the same on either side of the hallway. It has a gym and cafetorium with a really small kitchen. I don't know how they make things work in that kitchen. And then it's got a whole bunch of modulars parked around the outside on either end
Hey,
of
look at how I do
it. So,
that. I ate lunch there every day.
yeah, and you survived, right?
Right, yes. Mrs. Lee did a wonderful job.
So when we look at some of the obvious stuff from outside, this is the modulars on the southwest corner. And the ramps are not really compliant. The railings aren't compliant. That you'll see over and over again, the AC units with the markers on it, they're not code compliant. They're too low. All of the roof water drops onto the ramp. The door sills have non-compliant steps. The sealant is failing on the windows are failing. And that's one side of the building. These are the stairs that come down out of the modulars. These are your secondary code required egress points. The stairs don't all have the same riser. So there's different risers, there's different stair widths. This is supposed to land on a 5 foot by 5 foot platform. It doesn't. It's supposed to have a pathway from there to a place of assembly. None of them do. So these are the secondary egress. This is the further around the building. The fascia system
It's just a,
I'm assuming, all installed at one point. Some of it's gone. Don't know where it went. We didn't find it anywhere in the building. You can see where it's not covered with aluminum, where Jim's pointer is, it's starting to rot. We're assuming that what's behind the aluminum is rotted as well, and it was just covered over because what you can't see can't hurt you. The single glazed windows, the AC mortar is too low. The mortar is failing in various places around the building. And the weeds and vines are growing in. Around the back, this is your main ADA entrance, which is on the opposite side of your parking lot with the ADA parking spaces in it. This is not ADA compliant. It needs to be the main entrance to the building. There's no camera, there's no lights. The T111 along the storage area is failing. The brick up above is failing. The lights, the windows above it in the gym are failing. It's not fair to look at the workers' equipment. Those are the guys that were doing the boilers. So that is a handicapped parking spot there, but it doesn't have a walkway around it. This is the roof that we were told you guys did. There's water leaking through this roof into the building. That far corner where it says ponding is over the principal's office. The wall in her office is falling apart from the water that's getting into it, and it's starting to crack. This looks more like someone painted it or used the wrong roofing on it. One of those two. It's ponding, it's not getting to the drains. This is the roof underneath it. The principal's office is off to the left. You can see the ceiling tiles are warping from moisture that's in the building, which usually means it's either in your HVAC system, which you don't have in the building, or it's getting in from up above and it's in the interstitial space above it. No safety glazing, no transaction window. The good thing here is you can let somebody into this space and they're locked off by the inner door, but then you have access into the office through those windows. The door off on the right just swings the wrong way for an exit path. It swings out so that if the kid runs into it, you look like something, an old cartoon. And then this is the gym and cafetorium. And somehow on an inaccessible stage, we have OTPT equipment. So we don't have a ramp to get to it. We don't have a lift to it. We have steps to it. And the steps are too steep to be code compliant. And that's where OTPT is camping out. The floor is great. It's a nice looking floor. It's got great light from the cowl wall windows on either side. It's actually kind of a neat space, but it's asked to do so much. And it's really kind of undersized, even for the 260 something kids are in the building. And then the simple things, the clock's unprotected. You've got that nice little Epson wall projector that's not protected, and it's in a place where you're expecting kids to be able to play. So some of this you can take care of, some you can't. Typical classroom, I think this is actually the teacher's workroom. Inaccessible sinks, not all the hardware in the building is accessible. You see at the bottom where it says improper wiring, it has the wire mold, which is code compliant, just not pretty. And at the bottom, the wire just comes out of the bottom and just goes over and plugs into something. The mismatched furniture is just one of those things that it looks like whatever was available from that last building got here. So you can tell how we feel about Stanton. It's and the problem is it's in a part of the city that really needs that school. It's not like you can just say, okay, fine, let's go somewhere else. Because there's nothing really else over there on that west side that's not a real move. So we have to spend some time looking at this building and the site in particular and say what can we possibly do with it. We do have a full write-up on all of the playgrounds in each one of the buildings as well. This playground, believe it or not, is one of the better ones in the district. It's just that it has the playground equipment for 2 through 5 is mixed with the 5 through 12. And it's not signed, and they need to be separated and signed appropriately. So you'll see that in the playground write-up as we go through each one of the schools. We talk about the playgrounds as well.
Why don't we just take a quick pause and see if anybody has any observations, comments, or thoughts relative to Stanton? And we don't have to have any.
I was gonna say, anybody have anything to say regarding Stanton?
Chris DeStacio, I just noticed that on this, when I was reviewing the paper sent to us by Mr. Betancourt, that this school doesn't have any fire protection system either.
Many people in your community ride by and see it, what they can't see from the roadway. And that's what we have to change, is sharing this type of information.
Yeah, kind of the problem with this building is when you drive by, you've got the tennis courts and the basketball court and the new paving on the playground, on the parking lots, and you've got the handball wall out in the park. It actually looks like a neat little setup.
Yeah, I, in order to hear anyone, I gotta turn my ears.
According to what I'm looking at,
That's what.
a partial roof replacement was done in 2018, and then another partial was done in 2021.
Okay, so depending on which one was done, we were there late August 2021. And there was no part of that roof that looked like it was all new.
Oh, my
The
God.
white roof looks like it was just painted and the black roof looked like it was just patched. So we can.
But we don't know what the scope was.
No,
of
we can
those
get the scope of
projects,
those
so-
and then see.
Yeah,
If
if,
we were put down as full roof replacements, we can look at the date of completion and the date of our photos and see how well those two correspond. If it was patch repair, make safe, there's an awful lot of patching that was done on those roofs and it's still there.
The
mhm.
the
Is Matt
partial was
Brown
done
on with
over the
us?
Library in 2021.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then all I can find on here is a partial replacement in 2018.
Okay.
Christine.
Okay, so we can look further on that one and make sure, because the library room, got a bunch of photos of that. So we'll look through those and pick that up as the back side of that corridor, we'll see if that really shows up that way. Sure. Okay. So the comic is, this is the building that I really want to like because it works well with its, with the terrain and with the, with the neighborhood. It's got the size of classroom that you would love to have, especially if you're in that art room 1, music room 2 or 3, which is just to the left of the entryway there. Those first 2 blue rooms have nice high ceilings because the ceiling stays level as the corridor comes down. So the classrooms 5 and 7, 6 and 8 have lower ceilings. Still not so low that it feels weird, but not as high as those first 2 rooms.
So Greg, to confirm in the site, as you move in this direction, you are going uphill.
Yeah, you're looking up at that hill as you look at the picture down the front of the building.
Yep.
The interesting thing here is I think you jump to the next slide here. This is outside of the building, which is one of the neatest pieces for an arts magnet school. The way they painted the outside there is kind of cool. That's your main handicap ramp, which once again is real far away from the main entrance. and it's not a compliant ramp, and the handrail is not compliant, and it doesn't, it's just not compliant. Because it ends up opposite the option under the hallway in the office. The brick has been repointed in a number of places, and it's actually not doing too bad. You see a lot of the
Excuse
windows
me.
tends to crack. Because
Excuse me, Mark.
it cracks differently, but it looks like they got the mortar right when they put it together. It is cracking at the far end of the building. So we're not sure what's going on with the chimney. No one that we talked to said that they were doing anything other than leaving that wrap on it. So I'll provide a cast there one of these days, see if they ever did anything to it, but it looks like whatever the covering was on it originally was
Excuse me,
taken off, and
Mark.
that blue material was wrapped around it, and we talked to the facility staff, and no one said anything about doing anything more than that. So I'll go by and see if we were just not talking to people who knew what was happening.
All right, we could, Joe DeLucia.
Yeah, there's multiple people with their mics on, and at least for me at home, I did not hear anything that he said about Waquanic because of the feedback and multiple mics.
All right, I mean, I just turned mine back on just so we could hear you, but I'm not sure what's going on there because I wasn't listening. All right, let's see what happens here. I'll leave mine up, huh?
Do we get feedback now?
I don't hear any feedback.
Joe, can you hear me now?
Not as clearly as I could hear you when we were talking about Stanton. It seemed like a couple people chimed in, didn't turn their mics off. And now it sounds like I'm hearing you through somebody else's microphone that's sitting far away from you.
Okay, good. Yeah, mine's only on, yeah, because only mine's on right now. That's what it is. So I turned mine off while he was presenting to eliminate the feedback. So I turned my speaker off. But we'll hang on. Let's try to go ahead. Turn yours on, Jim. Just gonna cut my speaker here. Can you turn your speaker on?
I can. It's on.
All right. Joe, try now. Can you?
Can you hear me now, Joe?
Yeah, you probably got to turn your volume up or something.
Problem is,
we need to
Mark,
be able to hear Joe.
you're not muted at the conference room. The City of Norwich one is still showing active mic. You have to mute that one, and Jim has to talk via his phone or tablet, whatever he's talking into.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you're
I
getting
thought it
still
was.
two mics.
Hang on, let me mute mine too.
There you go.
Okay. So now you hear me, Joe?
Yes, that is much better.
Okay, so you heard Stanton, right? We don't need to go back over that. We're on to Waquanic now. And what we're just talking about with this slide was the handicap accessibility is not compliant, both in location and the physical arrangement of it. And the brick having been repaired a number of times, and the temporary cover on the chimney up top, which is one that we'll follow up on.
I just wanted to state one thing. When we say non-compliant, we are projecting forward, meaning should we choose to do anything with this building, you would have to be able to go back and make this a fully compliant entrance.
Go back to Sharon.
Sorry. Go light. Is it up?
Yep.
Okay. So my statement was, as we say the word non-compliant in this text of this study, it's through the lens of, should we go to do anything with this building? It would be one of the challenges that has to be addressed. These are grandfathered situations, so they are legal entrances. They are legally compliant as they stand today. Any investment in the building takes you beyond that pretty quickly.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that for right now. It's, the ADA codes are a tough one. This is from on top of the hill, south piece of the building. So this upper piece of building is a single floor. That's the kindergarten and first grade classroom area. This roof has essentially failed. It's in pretty tough shape. A lot of mostly compliance issues. You can get out of any of those classrooms. You can't get to a safe area of assembly in a compliant and orderly way. There, as you go around the building, it drops off as well. And then there's a fence, and you're out to Providence Avenue there. The safety gate at the top of the stairs isn't compliant. The brick is failing in various areas. The playground at the top can actually be made fully compliant and safe. It's not that far off of safety compliance. It's just that it's for the 2 to 5 year olds, and who can't really get up there. This is the bottom of that stair, and this is where we're seeing the most brick failure in that upper corner there. Plantings aren't helping the building. They're starting to grow into the brickwork, and the non-compliant signage, it's a directional sign, a warning sign. It's not mounted properly. It doesn't have braille on it. The walkway, when you turn the corner, is too steep for a accessible path that it's called out to be one. And then the railings and the stairs are non-compliant. And since they're really the only way into that playground, because the staircase that goes down to Providence Street is blocked off. So this is the only way in and out of that playground now. And then this is the back entry to the building. We've got some surface mounted conduit, which has a tendency to break the brick up, and all of the signage on the building is mounted right into the brick as well. It has a call button at the back, but no security camera that we could see. And then the stairs are non-compliant. They're also non-accessible. So if you are a wheelchair bound or non-ambulatory person who wants to go to the playground, you have to go down through the entire building, out the end and around to the back. So it's differentiating. This is the roof. We see temporary cover on the chimney again, just to orient everybody. But the upper roof with the black has lost all of its cover and selvage, and it's all kind of gathering there at the bottom where the water ponds. The lower roof, you can start to see the ribs in the insulation and the board underneath it, and then that patch where they put the AC unit up on the sleepers there, looks like it started to leak. The next one down hasn't leaked, and I would probably say hasn't leaked yet. The roof is pretty much out there. This is the main office. Now this has a good entry vestibule sequence. It's got an inner and outer door that are locked. It's got a door into the main office that's locked or access control. Then it has a transaction window. So it's got the pieces we're kind of looking for. The problem is once you're allowed into this office, there's not an ADA accessible counter height. There's nothing that keeps someone from coming around the corner and getting back in. The doors to the offices aren't ADA compliant, and that person's sitting has no visual connection with either the front door or the vestibule. So that workstation, you want that to have a visual connection so that they're not just tempted to push the okay, come on in button, but really can look at someone and say, okay, I need to get someone to look at you before I let you in, type of thing. And then this is where you come right in the front door, and you're greeted with the gym and cafetorium is to your right, main office, nurse's office. You've got this first set of stairs. That's the back door. Goes that little hallway goes out to the back door. The cabinetry sticks out too far, and you can't get up over the stairs. So the whole building, in terms of accessibility, kind of ends right here. And everything that happens up the street doesn't really work for you. Excuse me. And then this is classroom 7 or 9. So this is up where the ceiling is a little bit lower. As you can see, if you're at home, you couldn't see what I just did. But the ceilings are right down on the top of the windows. You can see the warped ceiling tiles. There's no air circulation, no air ventilation in the building. There's hot air vents behind those bookcases, but no setup, even like a unit ventilator to pull air in. And then there's window AC units everywhere. And by having those, you have They are loud, and they also keep you from putting the window shades down. The good thing there is the floors are what we call battleship linoleum. They're a really heavy linoleum, and they're actually standing up quite well. And the library was renovated a few years back, and is quite a neat space as well. That was very well done. So that's what this called for work.
So the last of the reviews that we have is that of Kelly Middle School. So we've kind of moved our way up that spectrum as we wanted to share kind of samples along the way. Kelly Middle School within its site fits well, as we know, has good access to play fields adjoining. And here is the main entrance to the space. As we look to the,
And better,
what's that?
better.
All right.
So the slide on this one, this is, it shows that it was built later, it has proper weep holes, it's got a complete fascia system. Not sure about this mounting of signs right to the buildings. We're seeing that staining on a number of the buildings. I know they last long and no one can steal them, but it is kind of tough on the brick. It has proper expansion joints and contraction joints, and someone needs to get a hedge trimmer to some of the plants are starting to get to the windows. And that's for a couple of reasons. For one, it gets tougher and tougher to keep them clean, both the plant beds and the windows. And it starts to track from the building, it starts to break down the brick because it never dries. And it also, they just become litter traps after a while. There's been some repair with caulking or an almost matched mortar in various places. It's got a good window system. It has the room ID numbers, which help with emergency response. And you can see our deciduous plants starting to take over the evergreens there. Fields are nice for a middle school, very well kept in nice shape. This excuse me. This field has an access pathway that goes down the street and along the road to the front of it. It would actually do better if it just came in on the third baseline. Because it would be closer to the discharge point from the school for the kids to get to it. So it's got the bleachers there proceeding, but the accessible route stops on at first base. So the bleachers are there, but if you're wheelchair bound or otherwise have mobility issues, getting to those bleachers is not really going to happen. On the backside, the dumpsters have outgrown the dumpster enclosure. Happens all the time. This is one of the few schools where we didn't see a lot of weed growth. The school's varied, but the majority of them need some real attention to just the amount of weeds and the overgrowth on the sites. This one was pretty good. The roofs are the way roofs should be done. That little bit of slight water ponding, the last note there is immaterial. But it's got snow guards, it's got a gutter system, has roof pads so you can walk on out to equipment, has properly sized curbs. Kind of everything that you didn't see at Laconic is on this roof. Entryway is actually very well done. All the access doors are controlled from in the main office, including the one that lets you into the main office. Has a transaction window. A couple things that we talked about at Laconic that you see here is a visual connection to the main corridor and to outside. You also see a waiting area that's in an observable location. So if I'm working in that office and I have someone waiting, they're always in my line of sight. And from there, it's not a straight run to a door. That little wall piece there makes someone who might want to bolt from there and get into the building actually has to step around that wall. So it's a well-designed piece. The entry was more expensive to put down. It'll be there when we're all done with school and life. It was a well-done investment. This is right inside that area. So you see two work locations, both with a view to outside. So you can see who's coming to the main entrance, and both with a view to that waiting area. So nicely designed and well laid out. handicap accessible counter height, but unfortunately, the computer ended up on it, so almost got it. And then in the classroom, uplighting and downlighting, speech amplification system, which is helps with teachers and with the kids for getting uniform sound everywhere. Furniture that's adaptable, can move around and do a number of things. And we're seeing sheet good flooring as well, so nice durable floor, and can be cut and patched if need be.
So I'm going to give him a break. We're at the end. We wanted to share 3 samples, and the samples in terms of the style of write-up, they will also have paragraph narrative where we will bring in references to mechanical system, electrical system, plumbing, if it's pertinent to the discussion in that area, and always able to reference out to the full report, which will be part of our appendix within our documentation. The PDFs that were shared last week, those PDFs are basically the guts of the report, if you will. It's really, that will be shaped into narratives that will go hand in hand with photos and paragraph form narrative to give people an opportunity to do your choice. Do an executive summary read, go in, look at a specific building, get a real sense of what it's all about, as we just shared here, that type of storytelling. If you're really interested, well, I really want to know more about the mechanical system, go out to the appendix and be able to utilize that where there's a real deep dive into the various systems. And so
If I may, I just did want to say one quick thing. I did upload to the shared drive for the committee members the second half of the that you sent me the other day. So that's sitting in there. It's dated February 13th. It's the second part of the PDF for the draft of the report.
And Mark, on those, we
Cut off all the sound now, Mark.
Yeah.
We're hearing nothing from the conference room. You're muted.
Mark?
Try. Okay, that's why. All right, because we were both muted. All right, I just turned mine back on. So, thank you, Cheryl. If that happens, if people start waving that are using video, all right, just do something so I can see. Can you hear now? Joe DeLucia, you nod or something?
I can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you've already started going through basically where we are, progress review, which is my next item on the agenda. We could start, if we want to, I suppose we could start going through some of the other reports, if people want to do that, or do you guys want to digest it some more? Do you want to schedule a special to talk about some of this stuff? So I'm interested in hearing what the committee has to say with that, because there's a lot of material here.
You might be better to take that in and do with this many buildings, maybe pick a few.
Can't hear whoever's speaking.
Everybody, what do you think? Or do a meeting that's just to review comments or concerns.
All right.
Because we continue to refine this and pull more thoughts and information into it, and as those get done by school, I'll post them over to you.
Okay.
Start to address some of those questions.
Well, I'll suggest that we, if there's any comments or whatever, just send them my way and I'll forward them up the chain and see if we, if there's questions or whatever, and we'll see if we can't get them answered that way. I think probably that'd be the easiest way rather than schedule a special. I had it on my calendar to do that after this meeting. I was going to set up another meeting for next week, but I don't think that's going to be necessary at this point.
Mark, if I can
Good.
offer, usually the idea of having people read and, the other relatively large committee maybe assign certain members who have particular interest in a group of 2 or 3 buildings, take a look at those buildings, and as they do, if they can offer comment through you in terms of, Jim, there's a misspelling here, or there's a reference to a street that's a carryover from another,
Well, yeah,
that type of.
there's a lot of copy and paste errors in the draft documents, I'll tell you right now. So,
It starts to look like that if we just drop the text.
yeah. Oh,
By the third building, you're saying it over and over and over again.
okay.
It starts to sound common. Yeah, we discovered that that's a good way to get thoughts down. We just have to get people all thinking the same way.
All right.
Some of them write novels and some of them write short stories.
I like you say, it's a draft. I mean, so it's not, it's obvious enough what the intent is and whatever. So, so I wasn't concerned with that, but, so anybody got any questions regarding, the meeting schedule in progress then at this point? Because I think, we know where we're going from here. Anything else to be brought before the committee? Good. Stacy, did you have some?
I'm just concerned that the timeline that we have is a little too aggressive. That you're gonna put all this information together, we're gonna get it in whatever form we get it in, and then we have, 2 days, 4 hours, 6 minutes and 22 seconds to try to digest this.
That's our concern right now. And we get the facilities piece done and out to everybody. The trouble we're having is you're to the point where your superintendent is teaching in classes because of it. And so we're typically, we would be meeting with them a month ago.
Right, and COVID and all of it.
We're finding, and Dr. Simcoe is great in terms of communicating back.
But there's only so many hours in the day.
So,
And I'm concerned about that, and I understand that, we want to keep this moving forward, but ultimately, in the end, we are talking about multi-millions of dollars. I would hate to see you go through all of this, and then we hit a brick wall somewhere.
yeah,
So I don't know if we need to.
No, I would say that, I'd have the same concern, but, I have to say that I kind of feel the same way about it. But I'm not sure I got a better option at this point. How long, so whether, or either that or we chuck the November goal,
Well, so, and maybe that's the point, is
Mm.
if we're going to race to the finish line with this, and we all haven't had a chance to digest this, get this out, and now we're gonna have these 3 informationals.
Not only we have to digest, I mean, obviously we have to come up with a plan.
Well, but
So-
but you still have to have everyone has to have the opportunity to have some time to sit down.
Could you raise your hand in the app there, Christine? Because then that brings you
I don't
up,
know how, Mark. I don't know how, Mark. Don't,
'cause I'm not, because that'll bring you
Can I
up to the
speak
head of the
now?
line.
can I say something?
So
Can I say something?
people have a hard, sorry, I have a.
Mark, can I say something?
Can you talk, Christine? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking if you could hear me. I understand Stacy's
Not hearing you.
concern.
Hang on.
Uh,
Try now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, Christine DeStacio, Board of Ed. I understand Stacy's concern, and then I'm also looking at the other end of it, though, that if we put this off any longer, you're hearing about all the systems that are failing and the roofs that are failing, et cetera, and we're just going to be dumping more and more money into these repairs. That's my concern. There's so many things that we're seeing, and I read through the PDF that you sent us. And I mean, there's a multiple number of things that are going wrong at different schools. And, that's my concern, that if we don't try to stay with this timeline for November, that, we're going to be asking for more and more money to fix things,
Yep.
because we don't have a capital improvement budget, especially.
I'm gonna
That's it.
agree with that point too. I mean, this is why it's really a problem. We'd certainly like to move, forward if we can. So, but we're not at the stage yet, I think, where we're gonna chuck it yet. So Greg Balassi.
Regardless of whether it's this November or next November, the schools will not be built that quickly. The city is going to need to invest in the infrastructure we have now for the sake of the faculty and the students and the use of the community until the new buildings are ready. We need to do our due diligence. I'm optimistic that we can work on the timeline presented, but I've never done this before. And I also recognize that it might not be possible in the timeline that we have, might have to go another year, but I'm still like 60-40. I think we can, but everything has to line up perfectly, but we
Right.
still
The
need to
problem
invest in what
is
have.
we have to garner public support. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. So we, in order to do that, obviously, we're gonna have to do a significant amount of community outreach, but also we're going to, have to have all the information we need, obviously, too. So, we're not at that stage yet. So, and we have to have a plan that the Board of Ed and the City Council can get behind. So all those things got to fall into place. So, we've run into this problem before, as you recall, with the first iteration of the Facilities Review Committee. So, and we don't want to make, redo those mistakes. Mark Kulos. Hang on one second, Mark. Go ahead. You unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think Joe had his hand up first, but.
All right, whatever. We'll get him.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
All righty. Oh, geez, now
Joe
take
DeLucia, go
first.
ahead.
Take Joe first. I lost my train of thought.
Joe DeLucia, go ahead.
So I have two thoughts on the current conversation. First, nobody said that it was make or break in this particular election cycle, right, for the referendum. We set it, the council set that as a goal. There is a little bit of wiggle room in there, like, as I said at the last meeting, where we set the date at June 30th, knowing that really gave us an extra 30 days before the council had to vote one way or the other in order to make it onto the ballot for referendum, with all the filings and everything. However, if we recall, and this is really my second thing tied to the same point, if we recall the last time that we went through this process, the public felt that the report was rushed, that the decisions were rushed. They also felt that the feedback we got was that there were too many options. I don't think we're in danger of that this time, but that feeling that the whole project is rushed makes everybody nervous. And not to speak for Stacy, but I think that's part of where her points are coming from. I feel the same way. But I think that we press forward, and if we can't make the council's deadline, then we tell the council that we can't make its deadline, and the thing gets put off for a year. If we don't feel like we can deliver an honest to God proposal that we can get behind, as you have all said, and that the community is going to get behind, then we put it off and it goes to November of 23, and so be it.
Well,
But I think that we stay as aggressive as we can, and if we can't get over the bar in time, then that's what we tell the council.
Yeah, the darn council, you know. The so Mark Kulis, did you remember what you had to
Yeah,
say?
yeah, I said, finally figured out. Hey, we may have to double up meetings, that's all. I mean, do two meetings a month or weekly, you know, whatever. If DRA can present material to us, you know, even in smaller chunks, then we can progress to get this going. Obviously, the buildings are crumbling. The roofs aren't getting any better. The mortar isn't going to be repair itself. You know, the longer we wait, the more we're going to have to put into maintenance on old buildings that we may not be keeping.
Correct. Christine DeStazio?
I figured it out, Mark.
Thank you. Because that what it is in the queue that moves you right up. When you raise your
I
hand, it
know,
moves you
I'm
right up.
learning. No, mine is a little different. I'm on my iPad.
Okay.
No, I have a question. How are we doing on those surveys that we're going to be being distributed to our children?
Good question. They're not out yet, according to,
Yeah, I knew they weren't supposed to be, but I'm just wondering if we're moving in the direction, you know, the right direction, and they're being compiled or et cetera,
is there a
formatted.
time frame on that, Greg?
I'm hoping that I have the parent.
I can't hear him.
Oh, hang on, go ahead. Jim, why don't you turn yours on? Go ahead. I'll shut mine off. Good.
So the parent and teacher surveys are done.
Can't hear him.
You're all muted again. All the microphones are off.
How
about now?
Oh, there he goes.
Got it.
Okay, so the teacher and parent surveys are done. They're ready to go. We're working on getting the student one to reach down to the younger students. And
Right.
the aim is to have them down to the admin office by middle of next week.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe DeLucia, you had
Yeah, so I was wondering if the committee might entertain the idea of setting a deadline for itself in terms of saying if by whatever date, we want to say April 30th, May 30th, whatever case may be, but by some date prior to the council's deadline, if on that date, this committee does not feel that it can produce a report worthy of the mission that we were charged with, then at that point, by vote, we say, we send a message to the council saying exactly that. We want to set a date for ourselves right now.
I think our meeting in June would be till the 21st, which would be after the second council meeting. So I think we'd probably have to make a decision on that prior to that. So I'm thinking, at the end, we'll have to assess at our May meeting and see where we're at, I think.
Mark, if I could suggest, why don't we make April the meeting where we do an assessment of where we're at?
All right.
Because the physical side will be understood, and you'll start to see the pieces that are rising to the type to be addressed. What I'm most concerned with is that we have a good understanding of the educational direction and the public engagement, and you really want public engagement to come along with the educational direction. So I think that by April, depending on how things go for the administration, and we can get some programming meetings and get a real feeling for the direction of the district that we could take public, by April, we'll be able to make a decision. Because then if we take May and June as public outreach, then you can start to get a feel for how complete it is and how strong of a buy-in there is from everybody. But I think that you would have, if we have an idea of the direction for education, then you'll be able to identify buildings that are sure to remain. And you can start looking at perhaps investing in those. And if there are buildings that are likely or identified to be replaced, then you would be waiting on those anyway. So more meetings at this point, if it was focused on the write-up on the physical side of it would help, but you can do that just by sending comments back in. We need to get, and I know Dr. Stringfellow and her group would love to have a break and a chance to meet, but it's it is a strange situation right now for everybody to try to pull people aside and get meetings with them.
And I would add to that, that I would really like to see us be in schematic design by the time that we're talking to the public, because, you know, the people that are going to pay for this need to see what it's going to look like when it's done. You know, a report's fine, but you know what? Pictures, you know, we're going to need pictures. We're going to need sketches. We're going to need schematic design stuff, you know. So
if can people hear me? This is Jim Barrett. Yes. The term schematic design, very specific in terms of its meaning in architecture. This is a study effort, and a study effort will produce what's called a test fit. So you will end up with diagrams of buildings, understanding of X amount of square feet, understanding of how that will relate if it's an addition to an existing building, relational concept, square footage relationship, understanding of what's renovated, what's new construction. But this is not schematic design as part of this type of full district study. There will be room for schematic design should this go forward and the decision is made, building X is the building that wants to be addressed first. At that time, the city will have to dive in deep with a specific study of that building and basically re-ask these questions, test it so that it can prove at the state level that it warrants the approach that's been offered. And that will be a schematic design effort.
Yeah, I'm thinking based on that, I think we'd be very hard pressed to get something on the ballot. I believe that. But without, I mean, we got a long way to
Can't hear you.
go. We got a long way to go.
All right.
Well,
Do you want me to mute my mic again and you take it back?
yeah, okay, no, go ahead. That's good.
Mark,
Go ahead.
do I still have the floor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, I'm gonna say this as gently as I can. Well, let me try to say it in a positive, in a positive way, and I'm not
Say
trying
it.
to, I'm not. yeah, so-
Positivity.
So here it is. Unless we're in schematic design, we're not getting this sold in the community and we're not going to get it through referendum.
Right.
So whatever we have to do to map that out, and if it means it's going to go into next year, then that's what the case may be. But I've been on enough of these projects to know, all right, that you're not selling a community on $150 million projected of renovations to an entire district unless you are at least in schematic design. And I know exactly what schematic design is. So, you know, we've been down this road before. And so, you know, again, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but I'm just going to say it plain. Okay. A study that sets up a series of studies isn't going to cut it in this community. Okay, we need to get to the point where there's a plan, and then we got to be able to show them what the plan's gonna look like when it's done.
Well,
Okay,
first you
so-
gotta, I mean, you have to have the first step and then you design the first step and have a plan going forward for referendum. That's all. I mean, that's gotta happen. So that's where it's gonna be. So how a plan breaks out, I always figured that we were gonna be breaking this out into 2 or 3 referendums at least. So just because of the nature of it and how we were gonna get there. And this is gonna be something that happens over, a lot of years. Most of us sitting here probably won't be here to finish it. So,
Don't say that.
well, I'm just
I
saying.
know, but I want to be around for a while. We
I
gotta
don't
start
mean, I
knocking
don't
down
mean
some
dead. I
buildings.
mean like retired or moved or whatever, so.
Mhm.
I'm not even going there, but but it's, it's a big undertaking and it's gonna take some time. So, but we have to be cognizant of, the desires of the community, and make sure
Mhm.
that, they understand the importance of this and, where it's gonna, wind up. So, Peter, did you want to say something?
Yes, Mark, thank you. By listening to the dialogue, it's been very interesting. Don't forget, you don't choose to want to go this route, but a special election is still available to you for some of this product. It is going to be multi-phase. It is going to be multi-years. You don't want to go that route, but that is another avenue. And if the best product is what is delivered with everything that Joe talked about, that still helps you get closer to the schedules you need with the state, because the state's looking for 2 years' notice that you're looking to be on the bond agenda. That's generally how they do school reimbursement. So you can't forget their role in this as well. But I don't prefer a special election, but if you needed to do it, I would not oppose it. I think we'd all have to keep an open mind on that. It's
No, I
just
agree.
takes some of the pressure off. That's all.
Christine?
Can Peter, my first thing was, I understand what Joe's saying, because I know seeing pictures is what people love to see. And I understand what he's saying. But now, what is this special election thing that Mayor Nystrom was just talking
Well,
about?
instead of holding a referendum at a regular general election in November, you could schedule a referendum at any point in time, the council could. So that's all that means. So if we're
Oh,
ready
so
to
we
go
could
in
have it.
May,
So we could
Yeah, May
actually
next
have
year
the
we could do it.
referendum in like January and just do a vote. Oh, I understand now. I'm grasping it now. Got it.
just a
Thank
special
you.
election, that's all. Mark
Yeah,
Kulos?
no, I understand, but it's not like we're electing anybody. It's for the referendum
Right,
It's
just the referendum.
specifically.
One
I
person.
got it. It's the word election that was throwing me off.
All right.
Thank you. I understand.
Mark Kulos?
Yeah, I think DRA's first idea is to get an idea of demographics, future needs, how many classrooms of 20 kids we need now and for the next 30, 40 years. What are the demographic trends? How big the schools need to be? How many schools we actually need? Which ones we consider renovating as new? Which ones, if we need to build a completely new school to replace a school or build an additional school. That's the first part. And I can see Joe's point of beyond that, to actually get a schematic drawing. I know you went through it all with the with plans for the new police station, and that all fell through because there was, there really wasn't anything that people could put their finger on. Yeah, we'll put it here, we'll put it there, but there wasn't a solid picture that people could say, oh, that's what it's going to look like.
Well, I mean, they did have some renderings for that, but there was more involved than that one particular thing. I think in our case with the school system, certainly if we don't undertake a renovation project, of this nature, where we would have state reimbursement, we're gonna be on the hook for significant amounts of capital improvements as we go along in the school system. We really don't wanna, I don't think we really wanna be there, so. All right, does anyone have anything else? Christine?
Sorry, one more thing. I was just wondering if we've made any progress on identifying any other land. I know that's a laughing matter because there's so little space left in our city. But I didn't know if anybody had come up with some
Not-
other ideas.
Not really. I know, the only things that were talked about off the books, shall we say, well, something that they brought up today was the Stanton site was that we know is some land
Yeah,
there. Also,
definitely.
the old Greenville school site was a possibility too, so.
Yeah.
But we're not,
Accessibility.
we have not investigated that any farther than just
Okay,
a little chat about it.
got it. Thank you.
That'll go, that'll happen later.
Yeah, Mark Kulis, I don't know if there was additional land up by veterans.
Not that I'm aware of, but not that anyone's ever brought to my attention.
Unless we want to go into Pete's community, get his neighborhood in the back there. I don't think there is anything.
No, take the mayor's house by eminent domain. What do you think?
There we go.
You're all in trouble.
There
There
goes
is
that
a
garden,
six-
Pete.
There's a 60+ acre parcel at the top of Spruce Street, but boy, that's not
No.
great
it's not
Is it
accessible.
is it mountain goat territory?
pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem we have with veterans,
Right,
I know.
the streets are so narrow. Yeah, the accessibility is terrible.
Okay, good enough. So for the committee, is there anything else to be brought before it? If not, then a motion to adjourn will be in order. By Stacy Gould, second by Greg Balassi. So let's go through here. Christine DeStasio,
Yes,
Joe DeLucia,
Yes.
Mark Kulos,
Yes.
Cindy Beauregard,
Yes.
Bill Hull.
Yes.
Did I say Joe DeLucia? Or yeah, I think everyone's bailing out. Mark Betancourt, yes. Greg
Yes.
Balassi, yes. Stacy Gould, yes. Oh, yeah. Passes unanimously. We stand adjourned at 7:57. The next meeting will be the regularly scheduled meeting in March, unless we need to meet special for some reason. I'll get back to you. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.